An Alaska serial killer got caught because a homeless woman accidentally picked up the wrong phone, and what she found on it made her hide in the woods for days. The terrifying part? She had just spent the entire night alone with him. On September 6th, 2019, surveillance cameras outside an Anchorage shop recorded Brian Smith and Valerie Casler walking inside. From the outside, nothing seemed unusual. But Valerie did not know that in the back of Brian's truck lay a murdered woman's body. The killing had happened just one day earlier. When Brian went into the store to buy drinks, Valerie was left alone in the vehicle. She dropped her phone and reached down. Her fingers found two phones instead of one. She grabbed Brian's device by accident and slipped it into her pocket. That single mistake would soon expose a serial killer. 6 hours before that surveillance footage, Brian Smith sat at home after work. He drank whiskey and decided to drive through Anchorage late at night. Behind a grocery store, he saw a woman standing in the rain. Her name was Valerie Casler. She was 52 years old and homeless, living in a tent. The rain was falling hard. Brian pulled over and asked if she wanted to ride with him. She said yes. For the next several hours, they drove and talked. They stopped at the airport to watch planes take off into the dark sky. Around 2 a.m., Brian pulled into a gas station to use the ATM. He went inside the brightly lit store, leaving Valerie alone in the truck. She shifted in her seat and knocked her phone onto the floor. When she reached down to pick it up, her hand touched two devices. She grabbed both without looking. She put one in her pocket. Brian returned with snacks and drinks. The night continued. Valerie had no idea she was holding a killer's phone. She would not discover the truth until days later. Days passed. Valerie returned to her tent in the woods. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the phone she had taken by accident. The contacts were unfamiliar. Then she found a folder labeled Homicide, Marriott Hotel, Midtown, Anchorage. She opened it. Inside were dozens of photos and videos. A woman lay on a hotel floor. A man's voice said, "You are not leaving here alive. I am killing you." Valerie recognized the voice immediately. It was Brian's. She had spent hours alone with a serial killer. After watching the footage, Valerie did not call police immediately. She retreated deeper into the woods and refused to leave her tent for days. She believed Brian would discover his phone was missing. She believed he would hunt her down. She believed the next video on that SD card might feature her own face. Every sound made her freeze, but hiding could not last forever. She gathered her courage and walked into an Anchorage police station. She handed over the SD card and told officers she had accidentally taken a serial killer's phone. Anchorage police inserted the SD card into a computer. The footage showed a hotel room. A woman was on the floor. A man stood over her, recording everything. His voice was calm. One detective later said it was the worst thing he had ever seen happen to another human being. Then a detective noticed something. The man's accent was unusual. English mixed with Dutch. He had heard that voice before. It belonged to a suspect from a previous case. That suspect's name was Brian Stephen Smith. The investigation now had a direction. The FBI requested Brian Smith's phone records. The data showed his phone had hit a tower near mile 108 of the Seward Highway. Human remains had been found there 1 week earlier. The victim was identified as Kathleen Jo Henry, 30 years old. The timestamps on the photos from the SD card matched the times Brian's phone was in that area. Detectives had probable cause for an arrest. But Brian was not in Alaska. He was on vacation with his wife in Washington, D.C. Police decided to wait for him to return. Officers stationed themselves at the Anchorage airport. When Brian's plane landed, they took him into custody. He assumed the questioning was about a stolen GoPro camera from his truck. Detectives read him his Miranda rights. They showed him photos of his truck and his shoes. Then they told him about the SD card. Brian asked what was on it. Detectives said, "Your voice, your shoes, your truck." Brian began to understand. This was not about a stolen camera. This was about murder. Detectives played the audio from the SD card. Brian heard his own voice saying, "Sadly, in my movies, everyone dies." He stopped denying. He admitted dumping Kathleen's body. Then he confessed to a second murder. He said he had shot a woman on his couch years earlier. He dumped her near a power plant. That woman was later identified as Veronica Abuchuk, 52 years old. Her skull had been found by mushroom foragers in April 2019 with a gunshot wound. Brian had killed at least 2 women. Brian later tried to take back his confession. He claimed he made it up. He said the interrogation was not fair because he was tired from traveling. The jury did not believe him. On February 22, 2024, after only 2 hours of deliberation, Brian Stephen Smith was found guilty on all 14 counts. On July 12, 2024, a judge sentenced him to 226 years in prison. Valerie Casler, the homeless woman who accidentally took his phone, had stopped a serial killer without ever intending to. She still does not sleep through the night.